Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast. Number one, yes, I am not in the studio. I'm actually in a hotel room in Washington, D.C. I'm about to head out the door to some very important meetings on Capitol Hill. But in the meantime, no matter what the setting is, I had to come to you with a breaking news update before I run out here. Israel striking back in Yemen today, along with the United States. Now, yesterday, Sunday, May 4th, obviously, you probably heard about it by now. Yemen's Houthis, those Iran-backed terrorists, launched a ballistic missile at Israel's Ben Gurion airport in Tel Aviv. It struck an access road right outside the airport, folks. That's a road I've been on many times as I go in and out of Ben Gurion Airport in my travels to Israel. At least 6 people were wounded in that attack. They may have been running to bomb shelters. That may be how they were hurt. But nonetheless, talk about a major escalation. The Houthis hitting Ben Gurion Airport, or at least directly outside of the airport, of course. Flights were canceled yesterday. Several airlines, including Lufthansa, canceled flights. Now these flights are apparently back on and people are going back into Ben Gurion. But nonetheless, Israel said right away, Israeli government and military officials, this cannot stand. We must strike back, and strike back they did. As I come to you, this is about 2 p.m. Eastern time here in the United States in D.C. Israeli fighter jets just completed some major airstrikes in Yemen. Remember, Yemen is some 1,000 miles south of Israel, so it's a long ways to go. And every time Israel hits the Houthis in Yemen, they've done it now about 6 times in the past few months. Every time they do it, I think, dry run for a strike against Iran's nuclear facilities, which is also over 1,000 miles away, Iran, from Israel. More on that in a minute. The head of the snake, the Iranian regime, in all of this terror. But Israel struck the Hodeidah port in Yemen. Now, that is a crucial spot right on the Red Sea where the Houthis transit Iranian weapons in and out of this port, including perhaps the missiles components to build those ballistic missiles that the Houthis just fired at the airport. So Hodeidah port, always significant. Not the first time, by the way, that Israel struck that port. That's number one. Number two, a concrete factory was struck as well. And apparently the IDF says this was a very significant target as well. It's used to build some of the Houthis' military infrastructure. So the two biggies here, the Hodeidah port and that concrete factory. Also some strikes around Sana'a, the Yemeni capital, which the Houthis rule with an iron fist. I think about 12 strikes in all. That's the early reporting coming out on this. But at the same time, the United States, not sure if it was in tandem with Israel yet, as we get more details about these strikes today. But the United States, nonetheless, did also carry out airstrikes in Yemen. So all of this went down today, Cinco de Mayo, Monday, May 5th. And we knew Israel was going to strike back, but they struck back swiftly. And the Houthis now licking their wounds. But the problem is, you might say, Stakelbeck, look, you keep reporting that Israel and the United States are kicking the Houthis' tails and bombing them. In the case of the United States, I think it's 54 days in a row, I believe, or something thereabouts, that the Trump administration, under Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, has carried out airstrikes against the Houthi rebels in Yemen. And yet, you may be asking, and rightly so, how do the Houthis still have the capability to fire ballistic missiles at Israel and even harass U.S. shipping? We reported last week about a Houthi drone that harassed a U.S. ship. We reported here in the newscast. The big reason for that, it's real simple, folks. It's all about terrain. Remember, Yemen is a vast, mountainous country with a lot of places to hide. And that's really the simple and short answer. Look, if the Houthis are wheeling missile launchers out of a cave someplace deep in the Yemeni desert, the barren desert there, it's tough to stop that. Now, that said, Israel's air defenses apparently had several opportunities yesterday as that ballistic missile traveled towards Ben Gurion Airport to shoot it down, and it got through. I mean, this missile got through Israel's incredible air defenses, whether we know, of course, for short-range missiles, we have Iron Dome, we have David Sling, we have the Arrow missile defense system for mid-range missiles. So I know Israel, look, 9 times out of the 10, quite literally, Iron Dome, at least, has a 90% success rate against incoming projectiles like missiles, ballistic cruise missiles, etc. But I know right now the IDF is kind of evaluating and saying, hey, what went wrong here and how did this ballistic missile get through and nearly strike Ben Gurion Airport, no less. And folks, listen, it's not brain surgery to understand If Ben Gurion Airport is shut down, that has a major impact on Israel's economy. And already, look, the tourism industry in Israel has been almost non-existent since October 7th. And at Ben Gurion Airport, if this became a frequent thing, airport shut down because of incoming fire and airlines canceling flights, that's a disaster for Israel's economy. Israel knows this. That's why you saw swift action and a swift response today against the Houthis in Yemen. The big question now is, now what? And you might say, what do you mean? Israel struck back. Unlikely that the Houthis will stop launching these rockets and missiles if or unless, and no one wants to see this, I can assure you, there's some kind of ground operation in Yemen. I don't know if it's special forces, I'm not sure, but that seems to be the only way you could really stop the Houthis, unless you just carpet bomb Yemen. And I know Israel and the U.S. aren't going to do that. So no good options here. No one wants to carpet bomb Yemen, obviously, and kill a bunch of civilians. And there's no appetite, I think, for any sort of ground operation in Yemen, unless there's some sort of special, apologies, my arms are getting a little tired. I'm holding my phone up here. Unless there's some sort, again, of some special forces operation carried out by the U.S. and Israel. I would look for the U.S. and Israel to work in tandem on this a bit more going forward. It's obviously a joint shared threat. But the big question about what comes next, Iran. I mentioned the head of the snake, right? I'm going to break that down in a minute. Before I do, quick reminder to subscribe to the Watchman News channel right here on YouTube. Click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. We're coming to you most weekdays, even on the weekends, depending on the news cycle, and even from our hotel room when we're on the road off of our phone. Low tech today, needless to say, but you're not here for the bells and whistles. You're here for the content. You're here for breaking news, current events from an unapologetically biblical perspective. So if you like what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe. We're over 1 million subscribers right now for such a time as this, and we believe God will continue to expand our territory because we're bringing a message of truth when it is sorely needed. Also, remember, follow me on X, Instagram, Facebook, and across social media. We're everywhere trying to get the message out. Okay, big question now in the short term. What to be done about the Houthis? Will Israel, the U.S., the defense establishments put their heads together and come up with a more decisive response where we could see an end, a cessation of this rocket and drone fire? We'll see. Tough nut to crack again, because Yemen's a tough nut to crack, where the Houthis have burrowed in some very remote places. Secondly, though, Iran. Iran's ahead of the snake. Obviously, the Houthis are an integral part of Iran's ring of fire, which has largely been smashed, dismantled, as we've laid out for you really over the past 6-7 months. Since September, Israel really went into overdrive, smashed Hamas. Hamas was smashed before that, but Hezbollah in particular, the dismantling of Hezbollah really began in September 2024. Hamas obviously in its death throes, the Assad regime out the window, and now the Houthis on the run. But at the end of the day, easy question here. And I want to get your thoughts. We got a very educated audience here. Leave the comments, my watchmen and women on the wall. Is the Iranian regime fair game here? If they're arming the Houthis and they're the source of all of this, does it make sense to go to the head of the snake? You know, some have said this for years. Why do we keep going after Hamas and Hezbollah and the militias, etc., when Iran's the puppet master, the head of the snake, pulling all the strings? Why don't we go to the source? Now, along those lines, Israel's saying that, but along those lines, President Trump yesterday talked about Iran's nuclear program in an interview on Sunday, and he answered a question a lot of us had on our minds, because we've been talking about the possibility of a bad nuclear deal between the U.S. and Iran, which all of a sudden, all along, I should say, made no sense to me, because President Trump pulled out of such a deal back in 2018, the disastrous Iran nuclear deal cobbled together by the Obama administration. So President Trump, what he said yesterday was music to our ears for many of us. He said, look, nothing but the complete dismantlement of Iran's nuclear program will do. Amen. So that's what we've said all along. Prime Minister Netanyahu called it the Libya model, what Libya did in 2003, dismantling the entire nuclear program. No more enriching uranium, allowing inspectors, U.S. inspectors, international inspectors to come in unfettered and inspect the sites on a regular basis, giving up your ballistic missile program, and oh yeah, ending your support of terror groups like the Houthis in the region. That's an Iran nuclear deal that I think would be very acceptable. I don't think Iran's going to agree to that. So what's inevitable, it seems to me, is a military operation sometime soon. Not a war with Iran, with ground troops and invasion, which some have been throwing around. Surgical strikes against their military nuclear sites is what people are suggesting, and rightly so, because it's an existential threat not only to Israel, but to America and the free world. And by the way, Iran has never been more vulnerable to such a strike than it is right now. I mentioned the Ring of Fire smashed, air defenses largely destroyed by Israel. Last note here, then I got to go. Pray for me here in D.C. Some big meetings lined up. I'll share more about it tomorrow on Wednesday. But Israel ready to re-invade Gaza and finish the job with Hamas. We'll have more on that story in the coming days as well. Things are moving in the world's most volatile and chaotic region, the Middle East. And we're glad you're here with us on The Watchman so we can break down why all this matters to you, no matter where you live. So God bless you. See you again soon. And remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.